Hello, everyone, and welcome to another discussion. And today I think we have a really interesting topic, Patricia. We
Ooh.
are going to be delving into it, may be more related to women. Some men may be able to associate with this, but I think it is more related to us as women. The difference between wanting more and being selfish in our lives, and how is that perceived? How do we perceive it?
Yeah.
And what does that mean for us in regards to going out there and kind of figuring out what we want and getting it if we can?
This is such a good topic,
Yeah,
Susan, because and I agree with you. Women, this affects us more so than men.
I think
Men are supposed to go out. It's okay for them to go out there and kick ass and
right.
grab
We're
all
doing
this
that.
stuff. But women are supposed to, even in this day and age, I know what we're changing, what our,
Yeah.
expectations of women are, but we're still struggling with that whole idea of we should maybe stay smaller. Uh,
Demure.
and want to be heard. I haven't heard that word in a long time. That we should be more content with
Yes.
what we have versus going forward. And
What
this
we
just,
mm,
it's a different discussion than the whole practicality of
mm,
life and families and stuff. And sometimes just from a practicality point of
mm,
view and how your family is going to work and how that works, that's a different discussion than the whole
100%.
what we're talking about is that emotional, that drive, that wanting to put ourselves out there. And often the guilt that comes along with particularly women of
Mm,
wanting more and this
yeah.
idea of being selfish. Mm.
Oh, 100%. And I think one of the things that we've discussed and I think is important for anybody listening is when we've done our research in this, selfishness is an act that we conscientiously take and do, knowing that there will be negative consequences in the people around us, right? In some shape or form, but we still go ahead with it, right? That would be qualified as something that's selfish because you know what you're doing, right? You can't just say, well, I didn't know that. Whereas wanting more is something that we're looking at, and it could be in different aspects of our lives, right? It could be from a spiritual point of view, it can be from a physical point of view, maybe wanting to be more active. It could be wanting more from our jobs, from relationships, things like that. But anything that we want more of does not have a negative impact on anybody else. It's something that we seek as individuals, right? As women. And I think if there's anything and anybody listening, that's something we'd really like them to take home is if that is something that you're thinking of, please don't think of it as being selfish. Because I think we tend to mix the two up.
We totally mix the two up. And also there's this history, I guess,
Yes.
of
Yeah.
selfish. Like I've worked with clients who have said, no, if I push myself forward and show what I've accomplished and go after more of what I want, that's showing that I'm bragging and that I'm being super selfish. And there's very negative connotations towards putting yourself out there. And I don't know that it's as prevalent as today as it used to be, but there's still very much that idea of no, 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 don't be putting yourself out there because there's something bad about you if you do that. But
Yeah. This is
it's
it.
not. And I love the definition that you just said that selfish, as long as, if you're hurting somebody else by your actions, that's selfish. And no, that's not a good
Mm.
thing. But if you want more, just because that's your drive, that's your excitement, then
Then go for it. And
yeah,
this is it. And I think to identify what you want more of, and it doesn't mean, and again, I think society does have us down that if we want more, we're not happy with where we're at.
sorry,
And
everybody. I
again,
just had some technical difficulties.
it's okay. Are you all good?
I
Are we
think
good?
I'm good. Are we good to continue? Yeah, I think we're good.
Good to go on. Hey guys, this is part of it, right?
You know what? We're not editing because we want it to be natural. So here we go. I just had technical difficulties, but we're
We're
back
back
on
on track.
track.
But again, we often, oh, we ought to be content. Being content, I think again, if we want more, doesn't mean we're not content with what we already have, right?
Yes, yes,
It just means we want more of something else in our life. And if we can put ourselves out there and be brave enough to say, I do want more, right? Because this is what we were talking about, right? Society can make us feel like if we want more, we're being greedy, right? You should be content with what you have.
yeah,
Isn't that good enough? And it's like, well, yes, it is. If I'd like more, what's wrong with me going out and getting it, especially if it's not hurting anybody?
agreed. And I think too, when you think about life, and I know you mentioned this earlier, but if we think about all the different areas of our life, like, and you think about it as a pie, for example, and different areas of your life are different pieces of the pie. And you can have some pieces of the pie that you're very content with, and other pieces that you're not content with.
Okay.
And so being able to distinguish between those things and saying, yeah, you know what, I really want more of that.
Yeah,
Maybe I have to adjust things, but I'm still not hurting anybody, and I'm still being completely present and the best I can be in these other areas,
this is it.
but going after some of the things that we want. So finding the
To do it.
courage
Yeah.
to step out. Yes.
And I think, just like you said, I like the idea of the pie. It's like, I've used it sometimes with my clients, like a soundboard in a music studio where you're constantly like, they're adjusting and adapting
Yeah.
different levers. Um, I think if we want more, we have to accept that there are maybe other things like, we'll have to diminish this lever if I want more of that one, right?
Yes.
Um, and I think if we're able as women to identify what it is we want, and then really try and think, okay, well, what is it that I need to do to get there? Right? What do I need to have in place? Are there things I need to be aware of? Right? And then not being afraid of doing it.
Right. Finding that courage to get out there. And sometimes though that has to be a family decision, right?
Sometimes it
Depending,
does. Yeah.
if you decide to make a career change,
Hmm.
because you want more, you want financially, you want to make more, you want more responsibility, you want to stretch yourself, you want to really explore that creativity that you have, or whatever it is, that sometimes
Hmm.
needs to be a family decision. But not going after it because it's, we are being told we're supposed to just stay content in our
Yeah.
spot. That's not where we want to go. So finding the courage, the belief in yourself, and recognizing the difference between,
That's yeah.
selfish and wanting more. And
Yeah.
those are two very different things, and understanding the difference as you're making decisions on where to go and keep stretching
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Well, this is it. And I think it's, it really is, it's having those discussions that I think can be really helpful. I mean, even like this may seem really silly to some people, but maybe others will identify. We have two dogs, and we have an older one, a younger one, and I was always kind of thinking, okay, maybe at one point we're going to get a third, so that way the day the older one goes, the middle one's not on his own. That was always my thought. And I've been starting to look at puppies and things, but I'm fully aware that the day that happens, I'm the one that's looking after puppy, right? Because that it
Yes.
falls on me. And I was fully aware of that. And I was all game for it. And I was really starting to look into it. And I was going through all these things in my head, okay, trying to, like we said, rejig my balances. I knew that if there's puppy coming on board, there are certain things I'm going to have to shift down and things like that. And then I actually had a conversation with the family about it, because it doesn't just impact me. Even if I'm the main carer, it still impacts everybody else in the family. And hearing other people's thoughts on that situation actually brought me to a really good place of going, actually, no, we're going to stay where we're at,
Oh,
because, they mentioned things about our older dog, Indy. If we have a puppy, he's going to pester the older one. And I'm like, is it really fair to let him live out his last? I mean, he's very active and good, but. And just then that sheer idea of putting in all that effort at this moment in time, I'm just like, I don't think I'm ready for it, right? But it was having those conversations that really allowed me to go, as much as it was something I really thought I wanted, right? I really thought I wanted it. And when I had that discussion, I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I am actually happy here. But had I not had that discussion, it would have really, maybe I'd have made a bad choice, right? Maybe I'd have gone ahead and done it because I'm like, well, I'm the only one that's managing it anyway, right? And then that, thinking about it out loud, would have probably been selfish because I would have known that it may not fit with other people in the family.
But the other thing that I really like about what you just said there is that sometimes what could you think might be a really great idea maybe is not a great idea in reality. And
Yeah.
so, you know, taking that time to really kind of evaluate, what is it that you really want? What are the,
What are the,
wider
yeah,
ramifications of that?
yeah.
And is this still something that works for you?
Yeah. And do I
And
actually really want it? At the end of the day, the idea was nice. In the head, my had all these visions and thoughts, and I'm like, okay, back to reality here. What does that mean for me? And I'm like, no,
no, this is not going to work.
this is not going to work.
So I think the moral of today's podcast is, there's nothing wrong with wanting more. Like,
No,
go after
yeah,
it, get
yeah,
out there, be
yeah.
fearless.
And have those conversations, right? I think that's also it is, having those conversations can allow you to really understand, is it something that really is? Is it really something I want? Which is great. In that case, like we said, go out. Maybe you'll want something in a slightly different version of it. But I think allowing yourself the time and to have those conversations can be really beneficial.
And recognizing the difference between it's totally okay to want more. It's,
Yes,
you
100%.
know, it's exciting. It's, the drive to be
Oh,
out
yeah.
there, just doing your thing and bringing that gift to the world, I think is amazing. And recognizing that, you know what, that's okay to want more and
Yeah.
not feel guilty about it. But
Mm.
recognizing the difference that also, because I know having worked with some of my clients that there's that whole idea about being selfish and
Yes.
really what is selfishness. So take
Yeah.
a really good look about what is that and is that really true?
Yeah.
And if it's not true, and these are the reasons why you want it and why it's a good place
Thing.
for you to go, like do it.
Go.
So just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Go for it. Just like Nike. Do it.
Just like love it. All right. Okay. I hope everybody enjoyed that. If you have anything you want to comment on that, or please leave that below. And we'd love to hear from you. And otherwise, we hope everybody has a great day.
See you soon.